Welcome into episode 136 of The Checklist, brought to you by SecureMac. I'm Ken Ray.
And I'm August Trometer.
A couple of reasons to not steal, a bit of a data mystery, and an unusual Facebook story. What time is it? It's time for The Checklist, brought to you by SecureMac. You are not going to believe this. People are using pirate video devices for no good. I know, right? Now, I'm not just talking about stealing premium content without paying for it, which, by the way, is no good. I'm talking about the devices that provide that premium content being laden with malware. CNET has word of research from the Digital Citizens Alliance, or DCA, and Dark Wolf Consulting. The piece says they looked into 6 streaming devices that offered free shows through pirated apps and found nearly half of them were packed with malware. Quoting CNET, while you may have bought a bona fide Apple TV or Roku to watch shows on Netflix or Hulu, there's an entire market online for jailbroken and modified devices that are tuned to watch the same content for free. They come at a much cheaper price and offer free, unlimited access to shows that you'd normally have to pay a subscription fee for. These devices work just like a Roku or a Fire TV stick. You plug it into your TV and connect it to your Wi-Fi network. In some cases, they're loaded with apps. If the hardware isn't laced with malware, the apps are. Timberwolf, a principal at Dark Wolf Research Consulting, found in his research. He said 40% of the apps for these devices were infected with malware that can take over a camera or microphone on the network within the first hour. Now, if you've got one of these devices and you're not sure whether it's legal, I think you're pretty sure it's not legal. The piece says while they aren't in stores, you can still find them in popular sites like eBay, Craigslist, and Facebook Marketplace. They're also often sold at flea markets and malls for about $75 to $100. People are enticed to buy them because they promise free streams on sports, live shows, and new movies. DCA and Dark Wolf say there are about 12 million active users in the U.S. with these devices, and they are vulnerable. CNET says one app for pirated movies and live sports called Mobdro immediately forwarded one of the researchers' Wi-Fi network name and password to servers in Indonesia. Other apps would collect data on the user, including photos and videos on the network, and upload them to the server. In one case, an app collected more than a terabyte of data after getting connected to another researcher's network. So obviously the first advice in all of this, don't plug one of these things into anything. Not only is it bad to steal, it can get you into trouble. Now, I gotta say, though, let's say I didn't know better or I knew better and didn't care. Let's say I have done this. Besides repent, what should I do?
Just stop using digital devices altogether, I think would be...
Well, we're not going to do that. So what's the next thing I should do, August?
This is one of those occasions where cliches are really, really helpful. And the first cliche that comes to mind is, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And if it says it's free or cheap or whatever, somebody's paying for it somewhere down the line, and that person is probably you. So just don't do it. But if you have done it, you basically gave a vampire permission to come into your house, which is, if you read the literature, it's not a good thing because they can keep coming into your house. And it's likely that these devices have installed malware on other devices in your home. So you've got kind of a big problem. And there's really no good way to scan smart devices or Internet of Things devices for malware right now. You can do it for your computer. We talked about just a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was just last week, the Princeton IoT scanner, which scans your network to look for traffic. I would recommend that you install that and just look for traffic when you expect there not to be any. So if your smart TV is talking to a server somewhere and your smart TV is off, it's probably not a good thing. At which point, you just have to reset that device from its original manufactured state. A lot of the devices have that. Even the Apple TV, you can basically erase and start from the beginning.
Now, not to sound stupid about the whole thing, because I think you answered the question. I mean, if it's installed on something else, like just unplugging this, pirated, Fire Stick or whatever from the back of my television, that's not going to protect me at that point.
No, because likely it will have installed malware on other devices in your home. And that's where it gets really tricky.
So then this next question almost seems ridiculous. As far as information that might have been intercepted, well, I mean, first of all, what kind of information might have been? I mean, is this something that can actually... How big a problem is this, I guess is what I'm asking. And look, I didn't actually do this, but I'm trying to figure out, like, if somebody did, does this mean, okay, well, now they have my viewing habits? Does this mean now they know what ads resonate with me? Or does this mean now they have my banking information and passwords and everything else that I've done, on every other device that I have?
I would like to say that they've just got your viewing habits and they know what TV shows you like to watch. But that's something for Netflix and Hulu and whatever other services there are out there. These guys are not after your viewing habits. They want your email. They want your name. They want your payment information. They want your passwords. They want everything that you've got that lets them get into other things that you've got. So it really is kind of a big deal. When you install one of these devices that's not, that's not kosher, then you are creating a huge problem for yourself.
So then, if I did this, or if there is somebody that we know who has done this, what should they do? I mean, is the thing now to take it to somebody who knows something about security and say, hey, can you tell me if there's malware on this? Or do they just have to assume, well, there's malware on this, so I need to, change passwords, keep an eye on my credit card information? I mean, all the things that we always warn about in cases of known breaches.
Yeah, changing the passwords and keeping an eye on your credit card accounts, that's always good advice, whether or not you've installed one of these things or not. But once you install one of these, especially so. Especially your credit card information, because that's what, is going to get them money, which is what they want. And even if they take a few cents a day, after a while, that adds up to a lot of dollars. So just be vigilant. I would change your passwords. Again, try and install the Princeton app if you have a Mac, and watch what's going on your own network. If something seems funny, for example, let's say you have a smart TV that's communicating with a server, and with the Princeton app, you can see kind of your bandwidth usage and that kind of thing. So when you see that and the TV's turned off, you might want to think about just completely resetting that TV to its manufactured state.
So we've talked repeatedly on this show about how I personally like stories with an obvious call to action. I think somebody stole my password. Change your passwords. Keep an eye. Stuff we were talking about earlier. Things that you can do to help, keep your digital information, keep yourself safe online. This is not one of those stories. From CNET. In a blow to consumers' privacy, the address and demographic details of more than 80 million U.S. households were exposed on an unsecured database stored on the cloud, independent security researchers have found. That's more than half the households in the U.S. Not more than half the people, but more than half the households. The researchers say the database seems to itemize households rather than individuals. It includes full addresses, including street addresses, cities, counties, states, and zip codes, exact longitude and latitude, full names, including first, last, and middle initial, age, and date of birth. some information is included but coded, given what we assume to be an internally assigned numeric value. This includes title, gender, marital status, income, homeowner status, and dwelling type. Now, if you're looking for a bright side, exposed info did not include payment information or social security numbers, so yay! Until Monday, CNET says this information was online and required no password to access. The way CNET sees it, it's one more example of a widespread problem with cloud data storage, which has revolutionized how we store valuable information. Many organizations don't have the expertise to secure the data that they keep on internet-connected servers, resulting in repeated exposure of sensitive data. Earlier in April, a researcher revealed that patient information from drug addiction treatment centers was exposed on an unsecured database. Another researcher found a giant cache of Facebook user data stored by third-party companies on another database that was publicly visible. Unlike a hack, you don't need to break into a computer system to access an exposed database. You simply need to find the IP address, the numerical code assigned to any given web page. There's no indication, though, that the information in this database was accessed by cybercriminals. Well, if there's no indication. Here's what I don't get. How does this happen? I mean, I may sound obtuse, but seriously, how do you store this kind of information without locking it down? I mean, is it that there are too many ways to access it? Is that somebody's just not... I mean, how... I really don't understand how this happens. Like, if I put $10,000 in a box, I know that I put $10,000 in a box, and I know where that box is. I know how to get into it. I know how to take money out of it. I'm good. If I've got 80 million records, how do I post that online and not know whether or not it's secure?
I've been thinking a lot about this question today, just because I knew you were going to ask me that.
Well, I'm like that.
And, it's really easy to just blame it on somebody being an idiot. And it very well could be somebody not securing the database. That happens all the time. It could also be a hacker sharing that data. That happens all the time too, especially with, kind of more the unsecured part of it. But I was also thinking that sometimes what happens is, your $10,000, that was a great example. You put $10,000 in a box and then you bury that box under the floorboards of your house because, banks just aren't trustworthy these days or whatever. And then somebody buys your house. And then, years later, somebody decides to refinish the floors and they go, hey, look, there's 10 grand down here. And it wasn't because you didn't put it in a safe place. It wasn't because you weren't trying to secure it. It was just because during a transfer of purchase, which happens all the time these days in technology companies, it got forgotten about. And I can see that being a possibility here as well.
Yeah, this is different than that, though, isn't it? I mean, because like the article said, you don't need to hack. You just need to know where it is. I mean, there's no way, it seems to me, that this information should be stored in a way that you can access it without, at the very least, a password. I mean, is the problem that there are too many ways to access the information? Is the problem that people aren't even thinking about the security of it? I mean, are they relying on security by obscurity? Like, okay, well, I'm going to put these 80 million records online, but I'm not going to tell anybody where. I mean, is that what we're dealing with?
In some cases, I think yes. I don't know exactly what happened here, but that does happen. I've been involved with companies who, do some really stupid things because they're like, well, it's quick and easy this way. And you just have to step in and go, yeah, I know it's quick and easy, but that's the wrong thing to do. And if you don't have that person to step in and say it's the wrong thing to do, then quick and easy gets sort of forgotten about because, there's kind of an old saying that, later never comes, because engineers all the time we'll do it later, and later never comes. It just doesn't happen. And it just gets lost in the shuffle, or if somebody decides that we don't have the resources to do that right now, and they're like, well, is it okay? Well, no one's discovered it yet. Well, okay, then let's go. And, that's the kind of thing that does happen. And then when you get those transfers of companies, or even without the transfer, all of a sudden you've got this massive amount of data that is unsecured and online that somebody thought, well, no one's going to find that.
Now, obviously, you'd want to take the owner of the database to task, though there's a problem there. Researchers couldn't figure out who owns the database. The piece says the firm found that the data was stored on a cloud service owned by Microsoft. Securing the data is up to the organization that created the database and not Microsoft itself. Of course, Microsoft knows whose it is. In a statement, Mr. Softy said, "We have notified the owner of the database and are taking appropriate steps to help the customer," of course, being the owner of the database. "We're taking appropriate steps to help the customer remove the data until it can be properly secured." In the meantime, they don't seem to be telling affected data points, you can call those people, that they're actually, affected. Now, I understand Microsoft has a duty to its customers. Doesn't this trump that?
That's a really tough question for Microsoft, actually, because, not only should they shut this database down and make sure that information can't be transmitted anywhere.
And they have, if I didn't make that clear, I apologize. They have actually, this is no longer online. So,
right.
Good news there, although who knows how long and how much time and whether you were one of the 80 million households. I'm sorry, go ahead. So they should do that. And they have, good for them.
But if they were to notify, say, one of the data points, you, for example, and say, by the way, we have a database that was compromised. Well, then now the integrity of their kind of client relationship has been compromised, and no one is going to want to use their services at all. When really it wasn't Microsoft, unless it was Microsoft, because we don't know what company. But they've compromised that relationship. So no company is going to come to them and go, we're going to put our data on your servers. So it's a tough spot for them. I would imagine that probably at Microsoft, one of the requirements for getting that database back up online is that the company involved does reach out to those people.
Half the country.
Half the country.
I hope so. I doubt it.
Which could be one of the two of us. I mean...
Sure. It could be both of us. Here's the thing. It actually could be both of us. The piece says the cache of demographic information included data about adults aged 40 and older. Many people listed are elderly. We're not that, but we are over 40. Many people listed are elderly, which one of the researchers said could put them at risk for scammers, tempted to use the information to try to defraud them. Now, in something that almost feels like gamification of information security, the researchers posted on their site, "Help us solve this riddle." So here are the data points that we have on whoever has all of these data points on us. What service is used by 80 million homes across the U.S., but only the U.S., and only by people over 40? What service would collect your homeowner status and dwelling type, but not your social security number? And what service records that you're married, but not how many children you have? Any guesses?
I'm going to go with, who is James Holzhauer, Alex?
Oh, that's cute. That's very of the moment. I like what you did there. I'm thinking alien invasion. This reminds me of X-Files kind of stuff, honestly. I'm thinking...
It feels like AARP to me.
AARP, seriously?
Yeah.
All right, maybe so. All right, so we got alien invasion, AARP, and the guy who's winning everything on Jeopardy. We will wrap with some surprising questions about Facebook in a moment, but first, a word about MacScan 3 from SecureMac. If you think having a Mac is all the malware protection you need, well, nobody really thinks that anymore, do they? More and more people are using Macs, which means more and more hackers are trying to hack in. In fact, the number of malicious files for Macs has increased exponentially over the last decade. You need to stay ahead of the bad guys, and MacScan 3 can help. MacScan 3 is a great defense against malicious software attacks aimed at your Mac. It's developed by SecureMac, trusted names in computer security and developers of exceptional security software for the Mac for well over a decade. MacScan 3 detects and removes Mac malware, catches keyloggers, removes tracking cookies, and provides full-range or targeted scanning, all without crowding up your hard drive or slowing down your computer. Say goodbye to worry and hello to the cushy comfort of security with MacScan 3 from SecureMac. Sign up for a free 30-day trial today at securemac.com/MacScan. That's MacScan 3 by SecureMac. Your 30-day free trial is waiting at securemac.com/MacScan. We'll end the day with our pals at Facebook. I know, it's rare that we have anything good to say about Zuckerberg and company, and we may still not. I'm not sure how this is going to go. I will say I'm open to the possibility. The social network posted some changes on its developer page recently, saying, as part of our ongoing commitments to privacy and security, we're making updates to our platform. These updates include removing access to a number of APIs, updating our platform policies, and regularly evaluating an app's access to user permissions. Now, I had this crazy idea that I might understand some of the APIs and what they did, because I don't know if I've ever told you, August, but I was a programmer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in BASIC, when I was 12 for about a week. So I looked at the APIs and I was like, yeah, get, something. I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but is there a commonality to the APIs that are being deprecated? Because that's what this list was. It was a bunch of APIs that they're like, yeah, you're not going to have access to these anymore past a certain point, and this is part of our privacy and security push. Was there a commonality to the APIs that you look at them and go, oh, well, yeah, sure, they have to get rid of that if they're going to be privacy and security?
I don't know that there was a lot of commonality, but I did notice that quite a few of them leaned toward, quite a few of the things they got rid of leaned towards access to personal information, which does sort of hint that they are looking at privacy in new ways.
Okay. So some of them actually do, some of them you do look at and go, well, yeah, that's a privacy thing right there.
Oh, absolutely. Some of them definitely do. And, I'd like to give Facebook a tip of the hat for it. But I also feel like there's some good old lawyering going on there. Just sort of, well, we said publicly we're going to be more privacy focused. And so we got to do something to be more privacy focused. The thing that troubles me is these are APIs that they allow other developers to access. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say that Facebook still has access to all of that information and can do with it whatever they want to. They just change some of the public APIs, which to me seems more a PR move than an actual prevention of anything.
Additionally, the post continues, our Facebook platform policies are being updated to include provisions that apps with minimal utility, such as personality quizzes, may not be permitted on the platform. The update also clarifies that apps may not ask for data that doesn't enrich the in-app user experience. This actually brought up a question for me. What constitutes an app on Facebook? I mean, like if I'm playing Words with Friends on Facebook, I know that that's an app that I'm using on Facebook. An app on a smartphone is, something that you download. Things that I'm wondering, like, are quizzes like, which Marvel superhero are you, things like that. Are those apps or are they something else?
In Facebook's parlance, pretty much anything you see on Facebook that wasn't typed by one of your friends is an app. It was written, and it runs on Facebook's platform. You have to register it, program it, and host it.
Okay. So, because I wouldn't have thought that those, when you say it, it makes sense. And certainly in their privacy parlance, it seems to make sense as well. But I wouldn't have thought did you survive when Thanos snapped his fingers thing would have been an app. Because what a horrible app that is.
So, I think the reason that is an app and not just a link, it's easy for people to share links on Facebook. But when you share an app, that gives that particular app the potential for access to your email address, which is what, all of those marketers really want, is your email address and some of the personal data about you. And that's what Facebook is trying to get rid of.
And as we were just discussing, there are a bunch of APIs that Facebook is saying you can't use these anymore, but that means they were able to use them.
Correct.
So even if it was just, what kind of puppy are you, or which puppy is the right puppy for you, or, whatever, there's no telling how much information that was trying to take to figure out how many puppies actually died at the end of Infinity War. Half of them, by the way. The answer is half of them, because that's how Infinity War worked, okay? So here's one that Facebook is doing that actually strikes me as just, straight up good. As of the time of the post, Facebook said previously approved user permissions that your app has not used or accessed in the past 90 days may be considered expired. Access to expired permissions will be revoked. Going forward, we will periodically review, audit, and remove permissions that your app has not used. Developers can submit for app review to regain access to expired permissions. You and I have talked a few times about apps basically leaving the door open for any info that they may want at some point without an actual need or use for it. They just go ahead and grab everything they can, because who knows, maybe someday this will be a thing that I'll need. Or they'll leave like a little, a way to get at information that they don't need now, but that they might need someday. It sounds like this move by Facebook is meant to combat that. Is that correct?
It sure does. And it is hopeful that, at least I'm hopeful that that's exactly what they're trying to do is lock things down. Again, though, it doesn't mean that Facebook isn't using your data themselves, or it isn't exposing that data in other ways to other companies. But this is a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, though, because what this would have stopped was Cambridge Analytica. It doesn't stop Facebook from being Cambridge Analytica. This could also just be Facebook cutting out the middleman.
Right.
I'm sorry. And that's accusing them a lot. That's saying a lot. But listen, there's been so much from Facebook over and over again. The one thing I have to ask you, because these do look like good steps, what I'm wondering is, for you, is it too little too late? Is it the right amount but too late? Or is it way to go, Facebook, you finally nailed it?
I think it's more like we're trying to figure out how to monetize you without making you angry.
Or without getting in trouble with President Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
Or whoever, if anybody seriously wants to start taking Silicon Valley to task in Washington, you have to be able to point to something besides the stack of apology letters that you've sent.
And I bash on Facebook a lot. I think we both do. And, they're in a tough spot. They need to make money. I get that. But it's at this point, they've stolen your jewelry, your family heirlooms, your passport, and everything. And then they say, trust us, we won't do it again. And it's just really hard to take them at face value.
Well, maybe in a few months, August, because in the coming months, they say that they will be releasing a more significant update to their policies, which, I'm sure every Facebook user is going to read, just as they did when they signed up for Facebook the first time. Hey, if you're looking for more security news and how-tos, the place to look is SecureMac.com/checklist. There you'll find notes for this show, for the last show we did, for the one before that, heck, all the way back to when we started doing shows. SecureMac.com/checklist. If you have a question you'd like to ask or a topic you'd like to hear us hit, our email address is checklist@securemac.com. The address again is checklist@securemac.com. And if you can't remember that, please do remember this. You're listening to The Checklist, brought to you by SecureMac. And we'll talk to you next week.